It gives me great pleasure to welcome everybody to our fourth Lunch and Learn session of the second part of the year. Our speaker today is Rebecca Anton Osder. I don't have her exact title, but I paraphrased it. She said that was very good. The power of a kind word. Rebecca is our youth director. She works in the nursery school. She's the art teacher. She reads Torah a lot more than I do, sad to say. And we welcome her and we're looking forward to what she has to say. Rebecca, I'm sorry, one last thing. Rebecca has said she's happy to have questions. She'll pause every few minutes to give people a chance to ask. All right, Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you again, Rabbi, for asking me to speak as part of this series. So I was going to take some time to introduce myself, but Keith gave a great introduction. And I think based on the faces I see here, that everyone here knows me well enough that I don't have to go through any of that stuff. It's nice to know, as I'm talking about the power of a kind word and how connections can be made or broken, that I see so many faces here that are the reasons why I personally am so connected to everything that I do at HERJC, and how each one of you in your own way has touched me and my family in ways that have helped us feel more connected every day. But before I go on with that, you guys all know that this year I was thrilled to be honored as HERJC's Emerging Leader. Granted, I was at HERJC for 18 years before the award, the honor, but I've taken on many different leadership roles over the years. And one of my greatest things is the way I feel as part of the community and how I embrace helping other families with young children join in. Part of my speech that evening would have been this little social experiment that I'd like to try today, but I had to cut my speech a little short. So I'm glad I have this opportunity today. You guys are gonna, it's like almost like a game. You guys are gonna have to keep your own score, and the prize is not materialistic, but I think you'll feel rewarded just the same. So here we go. For every question that you can answer yes to, give yourselves a point. For anyone that has ever had a child or who has had a child or a grandchild or has been part of the educational, the Youth and Education Board in the past 19 years, give yourselves a point. What about the religious school? But I've only been there for 15. So if you've been part of the religious school, yourself or a grandchild, in the past 15 years, give yourself a point. Sandy, you can give yourself a point for all of the grandchildren that have been in the classroom. Marty, you also.
I have two grandchildren in the religious school.
Correct. Marty, also, you can give yourself a point. I was Shoshana and Eitan's teacher. Yes. You're muted. I can't hear you, but I have both of your grandchildren. If you've ever attended Shabbat morning services, you can have a point there. If you know where my is
1 point or 2 points.
You, Marty, can have 2 points, for one for Eitan and one.
Oh boy.
Okay. If you've ever been to Shabbat morning services, if you know where my seat is, Rabbi Resnick, I'm sorry, you're at a major disadvantage here. Kabbalat Shabbat is my favorite. Simchat Shabbat even more. If you have participated in Simchat Shabbat, you can have a point for that ever. And if you've been part of what I have grown to call sharing Shabbat Friday night dinners, you can have a point for that. If you haven't been part of that, when we can be together in person again, please let me know that you would like to be part of that routine, and I will certainly include you. I think, Ronnie, you might be the only one who has not been able to share Shabbat with us, but I'll look forward to including you when we start up again.
I don't remember if I was ever at one.
You were there, Marty.
Yes,
you were there.
That's what we have upstairs.
Yep, that's the upstairs potluck dinner.
I've been to a couple of those.
We look forward to your cake and fruit.
Yeah, I've been to a few of them.
Havdalah is my absolute favorite part of any of the Shabbat services. If you enjoy Havdalah, give yourself a point. Ever come to morning minyan? You can have a point for that too. Read Torah, take a point for that. Child or grandchild that has attended high holiday youth programming for the past 18 years. Harold, you only get 1 point. I only had Sophie, not David.
David led.
But not when I was there.
Not when you were there, no.
Nope.
Harrow gets an extra point for last Shabbat.
Okay.
We won't do that.
If you're part of the ritual committee, sisterhood, adult education committee, if you feel a strong connection to HERJC. That part was really easy. We're all here for a shared purpose. We're all here because of that last statement, because we do feel a strong connection to HERJC. Those things tie us together in ways that are immeasurable to me and to my family and to, I would imagine, almost every member of HERJC. If you were going to look around and name the key people that you would expect to see at any HERJC event, most of you are sitting right here on this Zoom with us now. Hate to be preaching to the choir, but I'm going to go on. Now, these are things that are a little more specific to me, but they're great conversation starters, so you can give yourselves points to these too. I have children, 3 of them. I am a teacher, so if you are or have been a teacher in any way, shape, or form, I went to Hewlett High School. I attended college at SUNY Albany. I like vanilla ice cream. I live with my parents. That can be a plus or a minus, however you want to take it. I belong to Catalina Beach Club. So if you belong there or have ever belonged to any beach club, take a point for that. I love to swim. I prefer the ocean to the pool. I hate spinach. Broccoli is my favorite vegetable. I don't cook, but I like to eat. And I really enjoy baking. So I hope you guys all racked in the points for that. And your reward, because I said it wasn't a materialistic prize, but your reward is seeing how easily we can all be connected to each other just from some simple conversation starters. Now, these things, based on physical location, are not evident by looking at someone. You'd have to sit down and begin a conversation to know these things and to see these connections. That's the hard part. But what you can notice by someone walking past you is that they could seem confident or uncomfortable or anxious or happy or sad or nervous or uneasy. And the way we react to those things can make or break someone's desire to belong, can make or break someone's feeling of being included. You can see feelings, you can ease these feelings with the right words. Even someone like me who practically lives at HERJC, and many of my students think that I do sleep in that apartment upstairs. Actually, some of you probably think that I sleep in that apartment upstairs. And there is a rumor that during the art show, I sleep over in the apartments upstairs. I do not. Some people have said that I used to have a toothbrush there. That is true. But even me, as I said, can feel uneasy when walking into a new or different situation. I can honestly say that the first time I walked into a sisterhood event, I was shaken. Barbara was going to be busy. Was Naomi going to be there? Who was going to sit with me? Where was Irene? Who was I going to talk to? What was I going to do? Laura wasn't with me. I was alone. For those of you who don't know, Laura Underweiser and I do almost everything that we can at HERJC together because we both have a tremendous sense of insecurity when walking into new things. But Irene Dranch took care of it. She saw me walk in. Irene, I know you're there, but I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but someone saw that I was uncomfortable, whisked me away. Here, come sit here, meet this person, meet that person, meet the other person. It was an amazing, wonderful night. And one of the best gifts I ever could have given to myself was a membership in sisterhood. However, that night could have gone very, very differently. I could have stood in the corner. I could have been chewing on my fingernails. I could have not known what to do with myself. And very often, when people walk past us, if we don't recognize the sights and the tells of whether they're comfortable, we don't know how to react to them. So I'm sure that those of you who know me know that I sit in the back row during Shabbat morning services, all the way over in the far corner on the rabbi's side. And the reason why I sit there is very honestly because it was a quiet place to put the stroller when Sydney was a baby. And even more so, it was a great place for the double stroller when Cooper and Mackenzie were little. You don't know how challenging it was to schlep the kids. Well, you do because most of you are parents and grandparents. You may not know how challenging it was to get them dressed in the morning, to schlep them in, to brush the hair, to make sure the clothes were right, to walk across that whole entire back row.
I'm on
get
already.
To what at that point was the only place to fit the stroller. So I can't tell if someone's trying to get my attention or not. Okay.
I'm muting them.
So walking through, the very first time I came through with the stroller, I was a disaster. I was nervous. I was anxious. But yet I had been an employee of the building for so long. I had come into the sanctuary a million times growing up. I had always had a home at HERJC with friends. I had come to services very often with the Polikoff family, but here I was by myself with a baby for the first time walking in. That could have gone so many different ways. And I am so thankful that the usher said, all the way over on the other side is a great spot for the stroller. I walked past Liz sitting in the back row who cooed appropriately and invitingly at Sydney and said, if you need anything, I'm right here. I walked past Sandy, who I had known for many years at that point. I had been a teacher in the school for 4 years, who of course, following over to offer to help push the stroller when the baby was. Those things help make connections. That's the power of the right word. That's the reason I came back the following Saturday morning. So we have been told that the synagogue, we've always been taught, always been told that the synagogue should be treated as an extension of our own homes. Take a minute and think about inviting people into your home that have never been in your home before. I'd love to hear from anyone that has anything to share with me about an experience about how they might have been feeling either going into someone's home for the first time or having them come into your home for the first time. I'm sure you did not give them leftover stale food. I'm sure that they were not presented with dirty floors or unwashed dishes. And I am sure that those of you that may have had children or grandchildren in the home when that first encounter happened, they were told to be on their best behavior. Anyone have any other? Well, I can tell you that I certainly felt welcome walking in to the shul my first time as a parent with a child. Unfortunately, over the years, I have heard from many people that that's not always the case. And again, I'm looking around this room and I know that not a single one of these faces are guilty of this particular situation. But I want to share a few stories about my own background and about some things that have happened along the way that I have had the pleasure of hearing from other families and the misfortune of hearing from other families about their experiences and how we together as a community can work to help every single person feel the way I felt pushing that stroller into the sanctuary the first time. So I'm going to take you back some 40-ish years, all the way to when I was a 5th grader. Right? It's hard to believe that was 40-ish years ago. Yes, Naomi, I know you look very shocked, but it was 40-ish years ago. I attended a different synagogue for religious school. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to any of you that I was top of my class. I was a great Hebrew reader. I attended junior congregation because I wanted to, not because I felt like I had to. I loved going to Hebrew school. But that's where our connection ended as a family. We did not light Shabbat candles. My parents did not attend services. We celebrated Hanukkah. We were strict about Passover, which was probably the only strict tradition we held on to. But I was determined to be the first girl in my family to have a bat mitzvah and to take my role in my community and make a difference for myself and for my family. So there was this day in April, and I'm telling you this story not because I'm looking for sympathy or for pity, but because I want you to know a little bit about how the reason why I do things and how easy it is to sway someone's opinions. It was 5th grade, right after the Passover break. We had been assigned some homework over the vacation, which unfortunately I couldn't do. And I couldn't do because I didn't want it to do it. I couldn't do it for reasons that will become obvious towards the end of my story. For the first time ever in my entire religious school career, I'd come to class unprepared. I did not have my materials. I did not have my books. I didn't even have my glasses. Teacher looked at me and said, "Where are your things?" "I don't have them, and I'm going to need to borrow a new set." I remember this as if it happened yesterday, and I remember this regularly in my classroom. Teacher looked at me and she was pretty angry. And to be quite honest with you, if I had been a different kind of student, I could understand now as an adult why she was angry. I don't really even remember what she said, but I remember a different student in class speaking on my behalf. And then I remember the teacher sending me out of the room to go to the principal's office, to call home and ask my mother to bring the needed items to class. Well, you see, that was impossible because the week before we had had a house fire. We had nothing left. We were lucky that we were all out of the home when it happened. It was all over all the local papers, and because we were synagogue members and in need, my parents for sure had reached out to all of the appropriate people at the synagogue. There I was crying in the office, and on the desk of the secretary was the South Shore Record or the Nassau Herald. I don't remember which one, but it was definitely one of the two, with the front cover of the flames rising many feet above my childhood home. I started to cry. No one understood why. I picked up the newspaper. I went back to the teacher's desk, placed the newspaper down in front of her, and said, "Can you let me know when I can have a new set of books? Please check your class list." Many of you might think that was fresh for a 5th grader to speak to a teacher that way, but we don't always know what's going on in someone else's background. We don't know that the woman who drops her child off at school every day on the cell phone isn't because she's not paying attention to her child. Maybe it's because she has an elderly relative and that's the only time during the day that she's able to speak to them. The bottom line is we don't know. That teacher turned me off to religious school. That teacher made me dread my bat mitzvah. That teacher robbed me of something. That one kind word, one smile, one question could have changed forever. I feel that I have become the teacher I am today to be the opposite, the direct opposite of that person. I am the person I am today because it's important to me that nobody ever feel like that child felt that day. That child that still lives deep inside of me. It's important that everybody feel welcome, that everybody feel wanted, no matter what their circumstances are. I would imagine that not a single one of you knew before today, well, maybe one of you knew before today that I grew up in a home where we did not light Shabbat candles. I would imagine that not very many of you had known before today that my parents never felt a sense of belonging. Unfortunately, my mother was brought up hearing this story over and over again. My grandmother had gone to synagogue to say Kaddish for her father and was turned away in the harshest of ways possible. No explanation given, no, please wait, the service is not, we're not ready for you yet. Just, you can't come in here. Or that's how the story has always been relayed to me. I feel that we at HERJC do a tremendous amount of welcoming, that we are kind, that we take the time to welcome people, that our greeters and our ushers always speak to people with the utmost of kindness. But everyone can have a bad day sometimes. The power of a smile, the power of a kind word. And I know I was supposed to stop for questions, and I'm sorry, I got very involved in my story. The power of kindness, the power of a smile, the power of a simple nod can make or break, as I said, someone's desire to feel connected. I'm going to take a minute and regroup. If anyone has anything that they want to ask me at this point before I go on, I'm happy to hear what you have to say.
So Rebecca, it's not a question, it's a comment. So I've been making lots of phone calls to different people over the last, I would say, 3 weeks or so. And if we take your phrase of a kind word and we apply it to COVID 2020, soon to be COVID 2021, COVID-19, whatever, the pandemic, it's amazing how a word, even over the telephone, for some people is greatly appreciated. And I would imagine all of you know people who maybe you have not reached out to as much as maybe seeing them at Kiddush on Shabbos or what have you. And if we take what you're saying and turning that into an action, a teachable moment, making a phone call to 2 or 3 of those people is, exactly what you are talking about and very achievable even in the age of COVID.
Thank you for that. I do think that at my next,
Yeah, I just
yes,
want,
Marty, go ahead.
because Rabbi, before we did this, we were all assigned, remember the board members were assigned to call people? And I don't know, when was this back
Back
around?
in July or so.
July, August, and I tell you,
Usually.
reactions, just saying hello, how are you? We're just calling you to see if there's anything the synagogue can do. You know, everybody had what, 5 or 6 people to call. Some of the reactions were amazing. They said, gee, this is really great. No one ever did this before, things like that. I didn't even know some of these people. I'm just saying, others had things like that too, I guess.
That's great to hear.
So on a positive note, my next story is a little more uplifting. And I think 1 or 2 of you may have heard this story at least once. I know that there's someone that can actually tell the story almost as well as I can. But Sandy Fight is known throughout the nursery school as Grandpa Sandy, and probably throughout a good portion of the congregation as Grandpa Sandy. And because of his kindness and his willingness to participate in activities and the time he takes to spend with children, whether they're in the nursery school or in synagogue, has left a tremendous impact on my own family. So Sandy, where are we, 5 years ago?
At least, yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Cooper, my son, who's now 11, had a lot of, well, he still has a lot of things. He needed some extra attention when he was younger. He was speech delayed. He floats off and on the spectrum at this point without a real diagnosis. Very, very hard time connecting to people, especially to adults. He didn't speak a full sentence from beginning to end, with appropriate adjectives, nouns, verbs, but a full sentence until he was in kindergarten. Cooper does not come up on the bima. Cooper frequently brings a stuffed animal to shul with him and enjoys introducing his stuffed animal to other members of the congregation. And the fact that there are people who have taken time to shake that stuffed animal's hands means more to a parent than anything else that could possibly happen. Then there's one magical moment that happens with Cooper. We were coming home from shul and he says, Mommy. And I said, yes. He goes, Poppy is your dad, right? And I said, yeah, Poppy's my dad. Well, Papa is Dad's dad, right? My father-in-law lives in Florida. The kids call him Papa. They see him once a year. I wouldn't have even known that he would have, at that point, been able to make that conclusion. I said, that's right. He goes, well, then whose dad is Grandpa Sandy? So the power of connecting to children, to adults, to people reaches so far beyond what you would normally expect. This is a child who I didn't even know could associate the fact that my father-in-law, who he never sees, was my husband's father. Now is inquiring how we're related to Grandpa Sandy. Knows that a grandpa needs to be someone's father. Well, Grandpa Sandy is father to many grandchildren, and not really knowing what to say at that point, because again, vocabulary and understanding were limited. I said, he's the shul's grandpa. I, for one, as the youth and family engagement coordinator, thank you, Grandpa Sandy, for taking the role as the shul's grandpa and for the role you play in my own children's life. As I've said, growing up, we did not have a strong sense of belonging. Wow, this is a lot. Oh, I didn't cry when I practiced. I'm sorry. Whew. As I'm looking around on the Zoom screens, as I've said in the beginning, every single one of you has gone out of your way to include myself and my family to make us feel welcome and loved in a HERJC life. Each of you has helped me to be the person that I am today and the teacher that I am. And I strongly hope that I am one of hundreds of people that can say that they can feel connected because of the smile, because of the offer to push the stroller, because of sitting together on a Shabbat dinner that you aren't even planning on attending, but were able to come up for. There's so many ways that we can all feel connected to each other. And if you think back to that list in the beginning, I'm sure there's a whole nother way. Anyone else that shares their distaste for spinach can commiserate with me anytime. Happy to share vanilla ice cream with all of you when we can be together again. There are lots of ways to feel connected. And again, words can have a long-lasting effect for the better or for the worse. And we should always remember to choose kindness and to think about an entire situation before we pass judgment on what we see before us. Thank you for your time this morning. And this afternoon, when I wrote it, we were still thinking about the morning. If anyone has anything that they'd like to add or share, or yes, Barbara.
Yes, I have a few things that I want to say. I don't have the same experience as you because I didn't join until 2007. And by that time, my daughters already had their bat mitzvahs. So I didn't go through the religious school or nursery school or anything like that. But I really didn't know anyone. But the only person I did know was Rita Gottlieb because I knew her from Hadassah. And she, she said, come sit with me. And that was, when the first time I went, that I remember. And also, by the way, my favorite vegetable is broccoli. We actually did a family trivia recently, and that was the choice. That's what I put down. And also, the Friday night dinner was wonderful. And a few times I made my famous brownies.
Your brownies are famous. My kids still talk about them.
Hopefully I can make them again soon. I don't think we've had one since January.
One of the things that I miss most, I come to Morning Minyan sometimes. I come to Shabbat Saturday mornings regularly. I'm still reading Torah on Zoom, probably a little bit more so now because of those wonderful cheat sheets. I miss most sitting with all of you at the table on Friday night and sharing and exchanging and building those bonds that we'll always have forever.
And also, it was wonderful to be invited to Sydney's bat mitzvah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We got another one coming up in a couple
member
years.
of Sisterhood, and it's always a pleasure to see you and your smiling face. And I do remember when your children were much younger. And even my daughter and I we see how far Sydney has come.
Thank you for your support, and thank you for always being here for us. Harold, I thought you had your hands up, but I couldn't tell if you were petting your cat or if you wanted to add something in.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, on behalf of the shul, you probably do more for HERJC in activities and planning and in just being so welcoming and inclusive than all of us combined. And you're a treasure, and we're so happy that you're with us.
Thank you so much. I don't know that's really true, but I feel that I have found my true home at HERJC. Even though I live in Hewlett, people seem to think I live on Main Street, but that's not the case. I hope that by sharing my experiences, both good and bad, and that by giving a little insight as to how easy the right words can help someone that did not grow up being connected to a synagogue, who isn't part of a synagogue because their parents were, because their grandparents were, because it just came from generation to generation. My connection came from all of you. And I thank you for that.
I can show something that really means a lot to Rebecca. A
Oh,
toilet paper roll and a
yes.
paper towel roll. All throughout the year, I collect these for her for the art show.
Your
And
trash is my treasure.
I've got an awful lot right now to give you. My
Toilet
grandchildren
paper
were playing with these yesterday as swords. So
paper towel.
I need to get rid of them soon.
Anytime.
Thank you.
If you want to drop them off on a Tuesday or a Thursday in the afternoon during religious school hours, when I can walk out to the car and grab them from you, that way you're not coming into the building, I can do that for sure.
They don't allow me in the building anymore anyway, so.
You know what?
There's a
The other day, my
restraining
classroom
order.
door was locked. I thought you weren't going to let me in the building.
That was Norman.
Norman and I are on the same restraining order.
I just want to add pretty much to what Harold said. Rebecca, I don't think you realize how much of an impact you've had on Bruce and my life. And we've been members for a very long time. And you probably have been, except for Norman and Naomi, the most welcoming in our later years of being members. You've been incredible. And what
Thank you
you've
so
brought with your Friday nights and just your smile and your kids is really a welcome, very welcome.
Thank
So
you.
thank you from us.
Please tell Bruce that Cooper has a new friend to introduce to him.
I will, and unfortunately, I didn't remind him that you were on, and so
Yeah, we might have
I'll
to do a
watch it
private,
on YouTube.
we might have to do a private Zoom. Cooper has a new friend for him.
Okay.
Yes, Harold.
Well, we should acknowledge Norman too, because he's the one that every single Shabbat service, or any service for that matter, where there's somebody walks in and we don't know who it is, he's the first one to go over and introduce himself, find out whether he's here for a yard site or any other purpose. I mean, half the time we already have the list and say, yeah, we know. But that he's so willing to put himself out like that, which is completely against my instincts. I have, to me, it's a real hurdle to go over, even as president, but to go over and just introduce myself to somebody that I've never seen before, partially because I'm worried that I should have known who he is and then I'll be embarrassed. But
I have the advantage of being old, and therefore people understand when I can't.
Never.
so anyway, it's great that you do that, Norman. It's really important.
Well, I just want to say that Rebecca,
That's okay.
here is my idol in terms of friendliness, kindness, and so on, and I love it tremendously. But don't tell my wife.
No, I didn't hear that.
So I did not come on to this Zoom to be receiving all of this praise, and you really embarrassed me a little bit, but I really came with the intention of thanking everyone for creating a place in my life that was never there before. And I have to honestly believe that I can't be the only person who feels this way. But yet maybe there are others who just don't know how to make the first step. So now that we've heard about all of these experiences, maybe we can all work together to reach out to other people in the future about where, for the past year and a half, since I became the Youth and Family Engagement Coordinator, I've been talking about Judaic journeys. And no matter where you are on your own personal Judaic journey, and no matter how long your pause if we're looking at it like a train on the tracks, no matter how long or short your stop at HERJC is, we're all in that station together. Some of us may be there for the long haul. Some of us may be here for a short time. Some of us may only be coming in to grab a snack and then leaving, but we all are here. And it would be so wonderful if we could find a way to, rather than expect people to come to where we are as far as service attendants or look, not everyone is going to be as involved as I am, but some people just need that push in the right direction, or to meet someone or to be introduced to someone who can help them find their way. And I thank you and encourage you and applaud you all for helping me find my way. And there have to be more people in our congregation who just need that little bit of a push. So instead of saying, ugh, she never comes to anything, or ugh, I don't even want to talk to them, they don't do this, or how can we even ask them to do that? They've never even set foot in the sanctuary on a Shabbat morning. Maybe we can turn that around a little bit and say, oh, you like tennis? I like tennis. Or, you like to go bowling? I like to go bowling. And maybe we can reach out a little bit and expand our reach into the congregation and into our HERJC community. Like I said, Barbara, I never knew you liked broccoli before today. But the next time we have
It never
Shabbat
comes
dinner,
up, you know?
the next
Not on
time
the
we have
menu.
Shabbat dinner, I'm bringing the burnt broccoli. There's so many different ways to reach out to people. And sometimes all it takes is, like I said, that first smile that I got when I walked through the door of the sanctuary, pushing the stroller.
Any other questions? Rebecca, let me thank you on behalf of the Adult Ed Committee, of which you are a member,
Thank you.
as is Sandy. And let me say how much
Good.
we
We're
were touched by
Are
your
we
talk.
co-sponsors?
And Sisterhood as co-sponsor, of course.
Oh,
That goes without saying. Adult Ed and Sisterhood speak with one tongue. So
oh, look, I can be in two places at the same time.
Multitasking.
I've always said that unless you're standing, for those of you that are familiar with the school wing, unless you're standing on that point where room 5 and room 6 come together, if you open up that wall, that it is physically impossible in HERJC to be in two places at one time. That I have worked so hard to keep my hats separated into all these different roles that I fit into. But today they're all on. And it's wonderful. Like I said, part of Sisterhood, part of adult education, youth and family, educational team, however you look at it, I come to you with all of my hats on today. And it's wonderful to be in all of these places at the same time and together, even though we're separate. So thank you, Keith, for inviting me
Thank
in
you.
for